So today it was incredibly rainy, and I have been avoiding my bank issue for a few days. It's Friday, and I'm like, today's the last day. I think I've been putting this off since Monday. Each day since Monday, I've been like, I'm gonna go to the bank in the morning. I'm gonna go. And I just never went. I want to talk about this so I remember. I want to talk about this so it will help anybody in the future. And, today's yet another day. I'm walking the streets and I'm like, I think I want to go back to Canada. And I'm trying to imagine what that would look like. And the truth is, do I want to go back to Canada? No. But I want to live somewhere where I feel like my business is wanted. Like, where I can get some straight answers, where I can get things done. And I'm like, you know what? Like, everything that has happened to me here in Mexico has also somewhat happened in Canada, just on a less intense level. Like, I've been scammed by landlords in Canada like you wouldn't believe. Um, I have, yeah, met with men who are handsy and rude, all kinds of things. But it's like this certain level of frustration. Like, when you can't get a straight answer from a bank, when the answers change, when you're dealing with government documents and stuff like that, there's something about it I like because, I hate strict rules. And I think that exceptional people get exceptions in life. And of course, I think I'm one of those people and I want all the exceptions. So I don't mind that the rules can be broken or bent sometimes. But other times, it's just this terrible feeling when you're trying to get something done that should be completely routine. It's like a complete crapshoot. You don't know what's going to happen. And for me, I generally tend to think that in this really flippant way that things will work out for me. People want to help me. People like me. And this has been the case for like most of my life. But yeah, in Mexico, when it comes to banks, it's been a bit of a toss up. And it feels like there's this, and it's like this, I see this everywhere, like at the laundromat, at the, um, like just anywhere you go and you want service. And it's not just me as a foreigner. At first, I was like, oh, it's because I'm a foreigner, or oh, maybe they're racist, or like whatever. And I talked to my friends here, and they're like, no, that's just kind of how it is here. There's this attitude, and it's like, it's this defeated attitude. It's the best way I could describe it is defeated and self-sabotaging completely. And I've seen employees get a look of triumph on their face when they finally convinced me that they cannot help me and I have to leave. They kind of like, I like this smile, like, yeah, good. I did a good job. Like they feel like satisfied that they got rid of me. And like I said, I've talked to locals, I've talked to other people here living from other countries, and they've told me the same thing. They're like, I'm trying to pay you. Why are you doing this? And yeah, so it's very frustrating. And so I'm having problems with my Bancomer BBVA debit ATM card that I've been using for the past year and a half. Prior to that, I was just taking my Canadian and American credit card, or not credit cards, bank accounts, and using them to withdraw money without realizing that I was paying a lot of extra fees. Yeah, it's horrible how much I was paying without really realizing it because they make it look like the fee is small and then they take the fee out of the conversion that they give you. So that's like if let's say you want to take out $100 um, Canadian. And just to make it easy, I say, okay, that's 200 pesos. And I'm going to charge you $2 for using the machine. And you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. So you're like, hey, I'll just pay $2. Then you find out that $100 is actually 220 pesos. So you were just charged $20 plus that $2. That's the scam that these banks in Canada, I feel like it's the Canadian banks that perpetuate this. Because you get a small charge from the Mexican bank, and the Canadian or the American banks, they grab that conversion. It's just so vile, you know? And anyway, um, so yeah, I ended up going through hell on earth to get my first Mexican bank account card. And I remember that first day, I just like so defeated. It's so frustrating, you know, when it's like the rules are being bent and not obeyed, and you're like, is this person trying to ask for a bribe? And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I remember this guy telling me, first of all, they tell you no, they can't do it. So then I'm like, okay. I come back the next day when there's someone else working, and they're like, okay, we can do it. So then the guy's like, okay, we're going to open this account for you, but we need you to put in a deposit. And I'm like, I cannot give a deposit because I don't have cash, because I need this card to get cash without getting charged like so much money. And he's like, we can't open it without a deposit. And I was like, well, I don't have one. And then he's like, okay, and opens it without the deposit. So I'm like, and this shit happens a lot of time. I'm like, is this a shit test? Like, is this what was that? You know what I mean? And stuff like that happens here all the time. And I'm like, oh. So then after like hours in the bank, you know, hours of like, they want fingerprints, they want you to sign 15 different sheets. They, it's just very inefficient. Finally, I get my card and I leave. So I've had this bank card for a while. I haven't had any problems. I'm able to transfer, you know, money from PayPal and Wise straight into my Mexican bank account and go across the street, go wherever, use the card, take the cash out. But I think I tried taking out too much money earlier last week. And I just had a weird feeling when I did it. Um, I don't know how else to describe it. And so the next day, when I went to use my card, it wouldn't even let me in. And it was like, your PIN is incorrect. And so I've been under the greatest amount of stress over the past, well, that year that I was married was one of the worst years of my life. So let's count that. The past 3 years of my life, I've been under the greatest stress ever. So on one hand, I'm like, I know I'm a really responsible person and I don't get things wrong and I don't make these kind of mistakes. So I know this pin is correct. I check, you know, the extra place where I have my pin written down just in case. It's there, it matches, I'm doing the right thing. Oh, pin is incorrect. Pin is incorrect. I go into the app. I check my pin in the app. It's correct. So the problem is with the machine. So I go into the bank, wait in the mosquito filled downtown, you know, lounge, whatever, to go speak to them. And they're like, oh, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, okay, fine. So then I go to the cashier, the teller, and he's like, okay, so let me know your PIN. And I'm like, I don't want to tell the bank teller my PIN. Like, nowhere is this ever required, right? You know this. Like, if you're dealing with a bank or you're dealing with a credit card or whatever, you're not supposed to, like, well, the credit card is different, but like the debit card, nobody gets to know your PIN. Do you know what I mean? So he's like, oh, okay, just put it in here, and hands me the machine. And I was like, what the like, it just blows my mind. They first like try to get me to tell you it, and when I won't tell you it, then give me the machine like you were supposed to in the first place. Okay, fine, you know. So, and then I was like, and before I did that, now I'm suspicious, and I'm like, why would I give you the pin if the machine is saying it's incorrect? Like, how are you going to like be able, you know? And then I'm like, okay, fine. If it's going through the machine, like it's more official. So I put the thing in and he's like, okay, we're going to change your pin. No, 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 no. I'm going to print out your pin for you. And I'm like, I don't need you to print it out. Like I told you, I know what it is and it's correct. And he's like, no, 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 we have to print it out. And I'm like, okay. And by the way, this is going like in French or Spanish. This is happening in Spanish because, yeah. So I'm like, oh my God. So then he prints it out for me and like slides the sheet over with my secret pin on it. It's the exact same fucking pin that I've been using this whole time. And I'm like, oh my God. I tried to explain and, and I'm like, whatever. So before I leave, I get this weird feeling and I'm like, I want to take some money out before I walked away from the teller. And he's like, oh no, we can't do it. And I'm like, what? And then he's like, okay, well, how much? Why would you say no and then just say how much? And I'm like, why does the amount that I ask for make a difference in whether you can fucking help me or not? Like, oh my God. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Like, I just, can you imagine going to a bank in the States or the US and being like, hi, I'd like to make a withdrawal. And they're like, no, we can't. And you're like, what? And they're like, well, okay, how much? And it's like the amount you tell them is going to decide whether they can help you or not. Like, come on. So yeah, I told him, and you know what's really cool in this moment? I just instantly said a number, and it was a strange number. Like, it wasn't a flat number or anything like that. Like, $4,000. Like, it wasn't like anything like that. It was like this strange, like, number. And it just came to me, and I just said it. And he's like, okay. So he gave me this money. And I left and I got home. And so then I went out and I tried the card in the ATM. Of course, it didn't work. Even after they gave me the PIN and everything else, it didn't work. So I actually tried coming back into the bank to resolve it. I'm like, I told you guys it's not working, kind of thing. And they're all giving me these weird looks. And I'm like, it didn't work. Once again, I'm like, please, just, we need to fix this. And they're all giving me the looks and they're chit chatting and everything else. And I'm sitting there. And by this time, there's now 10 people ahead of me. And the way things go here, 10 people ahead of you, yeah, that could be about 2 hours. So I was just so tired. I sat there and I waited. I waited for honestly maybe like half an hour and like nothing had budged. And I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm like, I don't need this. Like, I know they can't help me anyway. So I just left with my money. And then I got home. And then all of like the demons of like mistakes I've made in life and maybe I shouldn't have come here and like I always mess things up, which by the way, this was not my fault. It was like they were all descending on me. And then I had this thought like, wow, you couldn't even like why'd you give him such a weird number to the teller or something like that? And I'm like, you don't even do your banking properly. And I was like getting in on myself. And then I'm like, I stopped and I had to smell and I'm like, why did I say that weird number? So I went into my account on the app. Can you believe this? I gave him the number off the top of my head that was 50 cents from the amount, the entire amount that was in the account. That is the kind of brain I had. Like my jaw hit the floor when I realized that. Because this random number just came to my head just instantly. And I was like, holy cow, man. And then I felt this wonderful appreciation for myself that my brain does more amazing things than I could possibly realize, even in these ridiculously frustrating situations. So, and then I felt really glad too, because I felt like the employees were being weird. And I'm like, maybe they're going to take my PIN. They're trying to take my money, or like someone's trying to scam me, or someone cloned my card. But now I'm like, nope, I got all my money out of there. So I don't care. Um, but then, yeah, so that was last week. And then this week I was supposed to go and go back in there and check because I went to a Facebook group online for Mexico and I was asking if anyone had had this happen. And a woman was like, yes. She's like, the ATM machine will say your PIN is incorrect if the machine is out of money because it was a long weekend or there was a holiday. It's like the machine doesn't know how to like process the fact to tell you that there's no money, so it just gives you a message that says your PIN is incorrect. And my mind kind of latched onto that. I'm like, yeah, that's what happened. I'm like, yeah, perfect, perfect. Because actually, this was like, I can't remember who it was. Like, it was some holiday year. There's always a holiday year, so it actually was the day after a holiday when this whole thing happened. So I was like, yeah, that's what it was. So this week I was determined to go to the bank and check if I'm still getting the PIN incorrect, and also to finally drag my tired bones and go and try to get a credit card at another bank. Okay. I'm working myself up. I made myself this huge cup of coffee this morning. And even though it was raining like heck outside, I took my umbrella. I walked for probably an hour and a half today. And the rain here is not terrible. You get to see all the beautiful green leaves and the flowers drinking it in, and the sun sparkling, and I just have my umbrella. It's a little unpleasant. I wish I had my Croc rain boots, but it worked out. So anyway, let's talk about the bank. So I went to my first bank, which was Santander Bank. I walked in, explained in my little Spanish, I want to open a new account. The guy's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Like, do you personal business? I'm like, just for personal. And he's like, oh, okay, do you live here? I'm like, yes. He's like, are you permanent or temporary? I'm like, temporary. He's like, oh, sorry, we can't. And the way he said it so quickly, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't know. And by the way, I had looked up online what people say, and you'll find that people say different things all the time. Okay? People say different things, so you can't really trust what you see online. But just the way he was so flippant and so quick about it, I kind of had this feeling like, And he was just like the greeter guy at the front. So I'm like, how does he know these kind of things? So I decided I would just go to another location. So I kept on walking, and I went to this one bank that I had seen online that people were like, they give cards to foreigners and they have a good rate. It's called Bambahio. So I went in there. Oh man, these ladies, ladies who work at banks are so beautiful. They're so inspirational to me. In my mind, I wish I had like the composure of a woman working in a bank who's like, drinking Irish cream coffee, and like she's got like some wedding rings on, and she got like a clicky pen, and she got shiny nails, and she got the I really love this put together look. Like a lot of the times I look pretty and I look put together, but I have this side of me that looks kind of feral and kind of wild. And I like this as well. Mildly unhinged. I am a bit of a tomboy, so like I like to have my cute hair. I like to have cute makeup. I like to have clothes that are fitted. But I still could, jump a fence if I had to, or you know what I mean? Like, so these girls who look so, and I think maybe I looked like that when I worked at Clinique. Anyway, I saw a lot of beautiful ladies today at the bank, but of course they had more issues. Okay, so this lady's like, okay, come in, sit down. She's like asking me the questions, whatever, and she's like, oh, yeah, we cannot do it unless you have a permanent account or unless you're a permanent resident. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll tell people because I was told that you would help foreigners like me here. And she's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And of course, I said it like really nicely. Like, by the way, using any kind of like, terseness or can I speak to the manager energy in Mexico will fuck you over. Like they do not give a half of a shit about Karens. I would love, someone should make a series about Karens coming to Mexico and getting, you know, taken out because they will out Karen you. They will brute force you. The women. Um, yeah. And I think I probably, yeah, I know this because I tried. When I first came here, when I was first trying to get the bank card before I found that one place that would give me that bank card, I tried that. Can I speak to the manager? And the manager came out, and this woman looked like she was gonna slap me. And then they all looked like they were gonna slap me. Right? It's like the stuff that kind of works in Canada. And by the way, like I'm not being like rude or yelling, but like I kind of hit my manager voice. I get into my manager mode, right? And yeah, it works in Canada a lot of the time. But here they're just like, oh, fuck no. Like they start taking their earrings off. And you're like, oh shit. And the thing is, it's like here, if you seem discontent or you're like quote unquote causing a little bit of a scene, oh, you're an entitled foreigner. Oh, you're a racist of Mexicans, right? So this is what's gonna come down on you. This is like the situation. So it doesn't work here. You always have to be like nice. Unless you're dealing with, someone who you have to use force with, like the landlord that I talked about in my ebook. But so yeah. And I said to her, well, I guess I'm gonna have to let people know. Like it's too bad. Like I thought, because they said this was a good place. And so guess what she says next, y'all? Oh, do you have a friend who has an account here? And I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. They're gonna change the rules because you know somebody. So yeah, I'm like, yes. And I told her my friend's name, and then she's like, oh, okay. And she's like, no, I don't know. Then she pulls another woman over, and she's like, do you know this girl, like this friend? And she's like, no, I don't know her. And I'm like, oh my god. And I'm like, you guys can call her. Like, she has an account here. Like, she can come with me. And they're like, and I can't remember what happened from there, but they're like, no, 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 no. But it was like they were thinking about it at first because I knew somebody, and then they changed their mind. So the reality is, if I go in tomorrow and there's other people working, I could probably schmooze them over. But like, I'm gonna need a break after today. So I left, and I'm like, oh hell no. All right. So that was Ban Bashio. Next, I went to the next Satander, right? This is the one where the guy had told me, oh, no, 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 we can't. Sorry. So I went in there, and yeah, the woman's like, oh, so I walk in and I told her the same thing. And she's like, oh, no, no, I can't. And I'm like, she's like, you have to live here. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she's like, no, no, you have to be temp permanent. And I'm like, and this time I decided to try something else. I'm like, no, I don't live here. I'm like, yes, I live here. And I'm like, look what I got. And I'm like, I have La Cuenta de Luz, which means the light bill. They call it luz here, like light, which is funny. So I'm like, I have electric bill. And she's like, oh, which is like weird because I showed this to all the other people too. It's like, it's almost like she was agreeing to help me because I honored her no and gave her a reason to logically say yes again instead of me just asking multiple times. Because I've had this happen here before. I've had people say, I've had gone to someone and say, can you do this? And they go, no. And then I'll just pause for a few seconds and I'm like, when can you do this? No. And then I'll go, okay, so when will you do it? And they're like, yeah, Friday. And I'm like, oh my God. Like stuff like that. It's just really weird. And it's not like, anyway. Um, Lord. So yeah, so then I'm waiting and this woman helps me. She starts me an account. There's no problems. Everything goes well. She asks me for my references, some of my friends here in town. And then I realize, oh my God, I have like lots of friends here. Like I didn't even realize it because I'm sitting here, when people ask me for references in Canada, it's like such a frigging hassle, and I have people who I can put, but it's like, we just don't have close contact and friendships. And you know what? I was thinking about why that is. Part of it is because like I have the novelty of being a foreigner, so people want to talk to me. Part of it is the fact that I'm living in a new country, so I'm like putting in more effort to like meet people, But like not really. I put in a lot of effort when I first moved to Calgary. I was putting on events, I was going to meetups, I was doing things, and I would meet people, lots of people, and they would flake. Or they'd be busy, or yeah, like they have families and everything else. So like the friends that I have here now are like younger people with no kids. Um, and I didn't really know many of people like that in Calgary. Well, actually, I kind of did, but they were just flaky anyway. Anyway. So yeah, I got my bank card. I decided to go to the good location of Bancomer BBVA to find out what was up with this your pin is incorrect situation. So I went there. I ended up talking to this awesome guy from Guadalajara who complimented my Spanish, which makes me so happy because, like, yeah, so we had a full on conversation. Unbelievable. I can't believe I'm at this point. Like, honestly, I think they're being nice. When they tell me my Spanish is good, I think they're being nice. I think what they mean by good is like we can communicate and I understand what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be giving a TED talk anytime soon, you know? So yeah, we're chit chatting about dengue, we're chit chatting about this, that, and the other, and then I'm finally like, hey, like what is wrong with my account? And I told him everything that's going on, and he's like, I'm gonna come with you, we're gonna fix it, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay. So he came with me, we went to the machine, it accepted the pin. Then I tried to change it because now all the bank employees know my PIN and it said my PIN was incorrect and then it ate my card. And this is after I had already thanked him and he walked away and whatever. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. So I go back in and then I met, they're all helping me and everything else. And I'm like, why is it doing this? They're like, we don't know. I'm like, I need a new card. They're like, no, you can't. I'm like, I need this. I need that. They're like, no, we can't. We don't know what's wrong. We're sorry. This never happened before. I'm like, is it because I'm a foreigner? And they're like, no, there's many foreigners. I'm like, and this is like the Mexico way. It's like, well, we don't know. Sorry. And that's it. That's it. That's just how things happen, you know? And I've heard of like people here who have like lost their entire savings, you know, retired couples. Can you imagine that? If you came here to retire and you had all of your money that you needed to live on for the next whatever, and it's gone and you cannot get it back. Like, come on. I've heard so many stories like this. So, anyway, yeah, that card's still a bit of a goner, and now I'm just gonna have to figure out, am I gonna use MoneyGrams? Am I going to just get those big ass fees again? I have no idea what's gonna happen. But I did get my Santander card. That's coming in about 10 days. So, but the limit on it is extremely small. And by limit, I mean the amount that you can withdraw in cash and the amount that you can deposit. It's like less than $250. So, Lord help me. This is a cash society, which is great and I'm grateful for it, but I'm tired, man. And, you know, I remember just I've had so many issues with access to my money since coming here. I remember watching a Jason Christoff Facebook broadcast, and he's like, you know how people are always like predicting all these crazy things are going to be happening over the past couple of years, and they just like never happened. He's like, the banks are going to default within the next couple of days. And he's like, the currency system is going to fall or something. He's like, it will happen tomorrow. Insider news, like pull all your money or something. This was like, I don't know, a year ago. And I remember seeing it and thinking, I don't want to do this. I just like, I keep most of my money in small banks in Canada, not in, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. I think it'll be fine. Just hope and pray. And where was I? I think I was in Michoacan. No, the next day after seeing that, I was in Morelia. So I wasn't in my home city. I'm staying at an Airbnb. It's a gorgeous Airbnb. But lo and behold, I went to go and take out money with my card like I usually do, and it said, your account limit has been exceeded. And by the way, I hadn't used that card in a very long time. So it was completely incorrect. It was like your daily limit has been exceeded, and I hadn't even used it in like weeks. And I was like, oh my God, he was right. So I can't remember what happened, but it changed. But it's just the stress of all this shit. I can't wait till these banks fall. I can't wait till we don't have to deal with any of them. Um, I've always just been dumbfounded that they can hold on to your money and put on, you know, um, hoops you have to jump through in order to access this. It just feels so messed up. And then the government just gets to come in and steal whatever they want in taxes. And the slave system is showing. On top of the fact, like the working and the just everything was very fucking overwhelming this week. And as I'm walking back home in the rain, I had like some minor victories. I had some nice experiences with some cool people, but it was like not so good because like they couldn't fucking help me. And I'm like, how do you work in a bank and you were like, yeah, I don't know where your money is, or like, I don't know what happened. Like, what? So, oh, and yeah, this is what people told me. If you want to buy a house here, if you want to build something, if you want to start a business, you want to sell or buy something big, like this shit is going to happen to you all the time. And yeah, I know it happens in Canada too. I know it happens in the US too, but here it happens all the fucking time. So I don't know how like elderly people come here and make it through. Really, I don't. Really, I don't. Even if you have a lawyer or you have someone doing it for you, still. Even if you have a lawyer that you trust, the next time you use them, they may be in a difficult situation and out to scam you. Like I talked about that lawyer who helped me in my ebook, but she got recommended to me by that Australian dude, and she helped me, and I wouldn't have made it through without her. But yeah, a few weeks after that, he ended up contacting me, telling me that she did one good job for him in the past, and he went with her again, and she scammed him. So I I can't live in this kind of culture and society. I got scammed and ripped off and everything else enough in Calgary. So there are some cultures in the world where people are not like this. And I've been researching this online. It's like Taiwan, Taipei. So I start thinking, could I live in these places? And then I think of like the political landscape of the next couple of years. Um, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm really frustrated. If I had somewhere to go back to, I would be gone. I know a lot of people, they look at people who leave Mexico as like defeated, but like I never saw it like that. I never saw it like that. The two Canadians who were here previously, they both went back to Canada, even though before they were like, I'm never going back, blah, blah, blah. They left. They're back in Canada. Who's that one girl on YouTube? She's kind of annoying. No offense. I'm sorry. What's her name? The blonde girl who's like in Mexico and she has a Tangerine Travels girlfriend. What's her name? Ah, Maddie Gold. Maddie Gold. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maddie Gold. She was making a lot of money and a lot of success about her videos in Mexico, and her videos were good quality. I'll give her that. They were definitely good quality. I'm just like a little grumpy old hater over here sometimes. So yeah. Um her videos were good quality. She was doing well on Mexico, and she's like, I'm leaving. She's like, my father is sick, and she's like, I'm gonna go back to the States. And Mexico was a good run, but I don't know if I'm coming back. And she talked about a lot of the things that I have talked about and dealt with, just like real inefficiencies, lots of nonsense. She wanted to buy a car and brand new from the dealer, and the dealer was like, yeah, we'll get it for you. And then they didn't call her back in time, and then she called back and they're like, we have it, but it was like a different model, and it was an older model, and they were trying to sell it for the same price, and she's like, no, I want the other one. And so they're like, oh, okay, we'll order it. So then they ordered it and it came in like months later, so now we're looking at months difference. And by then the exchange rate had changed, so now it would be significantly more money. And they had already tried to pull one over on her, and people are like, do you want to do business with them and then spend a lot more money to do business with them because of how inefficient they were in the first place? And she's like, no. So she's like, I'm not going to buy it. And yeah, girl went back. And some people are like, oh, these foreigners are making a bad name in Mexico or whatever. But I mean, I don't really see it that way. That was a brownout, by the way. I don't know if you heard the fan stop, but yeah, the power has been not cutting out, but browning out, which is like a little surge, a little in and out. This kind of stuff, um, compounded with like the dating scene. Maddie Gold's videos about her experiences in dating with Mexico. I was like, yeah, this is my experience as well. My girlfriends told me when I came here, they're like, don't date Mexican dudes. Like, we care about you. We just don't think it's a good idea. And I was like, you guys are negative man haters. You don't. No, they were right. They were right. They were right. So, you know what? Yeah. The experiences I had with dentists here were both bad. I mean, uh, the experience I had with doctors in the hospital, also bad. Um, really the best thing about here is like my friends, the weather, my cat, the cost of living. But a low cost of living still comes with a cost, right? The brownouts, the blackouts, um, the flooding, the maintenance issue. Like, I'm tired, y'all. And I don't think that coming back to Canada is the answer. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I was thinking about going to Japan, and then as I started reading up more online, this kind of stuff happens in Japan too. They don't like, the reason why they've maintained their culture over there is because, I mean, individually, the people are welcome, welcoming towards foreigners. As I mentioned, I have some English teaching students that I've kind of picked up online, and they're like, I really got to know them and I really got to know their culture and I really wanted to experience it. And I'm like, these people are so amazing. It's like an introvert culture. It's clean, it's secure, it's safe, but they're like, no. As I look more, people are like, yeah, I get stopped by police on the street because they can tell I'm a foreigner. And there's people like, yeah, people will have a house for rent and then they find out you're a foreigner and suddenly it's not available anymore. Um, Hospitals will turn you away when they see you're a foreigner. They just don't want to risk any lawsuits or get in trouble. Um, I've heard that. Yeah, getting a bank account, dealing with your visa. Like when you deal with the visa office and everything else, it's obvious that they're trying to find ways to make sure you cannot. They're trying to find loopholes and whatever. And in my mind, going from such a lax, no rules, anything goes, lack of efficiency, poor quality workmanship of things society in Mexico to a highly efficient, rules following, on time, pride in craftsmanship type of society would be a great change. But no, I mean, yeah, and the reality is that both countries as well, how they dealt with the pandemic was severe, except Mexico does not have the infrastructure to enforce anything, right? However, they do have that infrastructure to enforce things in Japan, and compliance was very, very high in Japan, almost 100. And same with Mexico, but anyway. So I'm kind of feeling like I don't know where in the world I'm going to end up next. I've been considering and thinking everything, which is kind of exciting. I was like, maybe I should go to Switzerland, and then I start looking up stuff, and I'm like, nope, that's not right for me either. Super high taxes, lots of kids, cold weather, kind of westernized culture. I want to stay away from westernized culture. I don't want to go to Spain. No, I do not want to go to Italy. No, I found these islands in North Africa that a lot of people are going to. I forget what the name of them were. I'll have to post it in the Mauritius. Mauritius. But then I'm reading, yeah. It's gonna be hard to be a foreigner, an immigrant, an expat anywhere you go. So I gotta figure this out. Um, and I've even told myself, like, if you had all the money in the world and you could get a visa anywhere and you didn't have to worry about that kind of thing, like, where would you go? And I would probably choose back to Canada into the mountains. Yeah. The place that I was living in the mountains in Canada has literally doubled in price since 2015 when I was living there, with absolutely no changes occurring. So I don't know what this world is coming to. Um, I don't have a desire to compete with inflation and rising prices. Like, I'm not like, yeah, let me go make some more money. Let me work harder. Like, no, no. So we're going to see what happens. I really got re-inspired to life today talking to this awesome guy. He has a really wonderful outlook on life, and it's funny because I realized that my views do not mesh with, Mexican culture in a lot of ways. As an anti-natalist and a child-free person, I remember seeing this comment on Reddit where someone was like, "Why would we not have children? Giving birth to your offspring and raising them up is one of life's great joys." And then the comment had like lots of upvotes, and I got so triggered. I was like, oh my God, like I got so triggered. And then I started thinking about myself, and I'm like, who is in the right here? Maybe there's no answer, but I talked to a man today here in Mexico, and I told him what I was feeling, and I'm like, I'm mad that my parents made me come into this world. And he just had this sweet tenderness, and he's like, you know what? Like, if only the rich had children, like, that's eugenics. He's like, there's value in people who are not rich, who, yeah, they're going to have to struggle in the world. But if the only people who had children are people whose children would never have to work, like, it doesn't work like that. And he's like, there's a lot of really beautiful things to enjoy in life. And he was just telling me some like moments he had. And I told him how one of the peak experiences of my life was swimming with whale sharks in Isla Mujeres. And he's like, whoa, like he couldn't believe it. He's like, you did that. He's like, oh my God, like he was, it was so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I'm absolutely crazy. I can't fucking believe I did that. And then I brought other people to do it. Like, what? You know? Like, what a freaking miracle. The only thing I was really, really sad about was that they made me wear a life jacket. That really ruined my experience. That really, really, really ruined my experience. I tried so hard. I tried so hard to let them, because, God, my dream, the thing that I just feel a thrill in my soul about is going out into the ocean and jumping into the waves and disappearing below the waves. Now, I know this is just the idea in my mind. The physical, actual doing of this, when I think about it logically, does not appeal to me. So there's just something emotional about whales and deep water and being immersed in water. I used to feel this way about sand. I used to want to be like covered in heavy, hot sand in the desert. It's just like being immersed in Mother Nature. When we don't have a real mother, the ultimate mother of the earth can cover and nurture and feed and replenish us. My voice is running out. Unbelievable. I never talk this much. What the heck? Anyway, that's where we're at for today. I'm struggling, but I keep getting clues and signs that I'm doing okay. I got some more clues and signs recently that I'm like, I just love the magic of this country. There's still so much, just little magical things that mean so much to me. And I'll talk about that in another video. Thanks for listening.